Increasingly, the migrant crisis is being felt far from the border, including cities like Chicago, where officials say resources are running thin.
Chicago city leaders are feeling the pressure to find more money, resources, and space for migrants.
State leaders say they've been told to expect up to 25 buses of migrants each day.
In a city known for welcoming all, Chicago takes a dramatic turn, now closing migrant shelters. This bold step signals a deepening crisis as thousands seek asylum, challenging the Windy City's promise of shelter. With laws that guarantee a roof for those in need, the city faces a real test, managing this surge without turning its back on its values. It's a moment that asks, what happens when the Windy City meets a logistical nightmare? The city's budget is already tense and under immense pressure, sparking debate among city officials and leaders about the cause of action.
I know folks may have questions about my style, but don't question my leadership.
Stay with us as we delve deeper into Chicago's migrant crisis. The scale of the crisis.
Some 34,000 asylum seekers have arrived here in Chicago, and tonight there's no indication that the number of new arrivals is likely to slow anytime soon.
Chicago is facing a crisis unlike any it has seen in recent decades. Thousands of miles from their homes, migrants are arriving in the Windy City in unbelievable numbers that have left both the city and its inhabitants grappling with a new reality.
9 more buses carrying people arrived in Chicago today. That is the most in one day ever. There are already over 2,000 migrants here that are unhoused, not including new arrivals.
Let's dive into the numbers. Over the past year, Chicago has seen an unprecedented influx of migrants, with figures reaching into the tens of thousands. These individuals and families come from far and wide, with the majority fleeing violence, poverty, and political instability in countries that span from Central America to Africa and beyond. But what does this influx really look like on the ground?
A total of 17,000 migrants showing up since last August, and officials expect 1,200 per day to keep coming. Officials warning Chicago is approaching a breaking point.
Imagine every seat in Wrigley Field filled not with baseball fans, but with migrants seeking a new beginning. That's the scale we're talking about. And every day, more arrive, the city's infrastructure pushed to its limits. The response?
The mayor's office confirming tonight that the type of giant framed tents that are currently being used to house migrants in New York City are similar to what Chicago is looking to do to ease the migrant housing crisis here.
A patchwork of shelters, community centers, and makeshift accommodations have sprung up across the city. From converted parks to repurposed buildings, Chicago is adapting. But in newer times, it has become clear that enhanced effort on migrants drastically drains money from the budget.
Chicago's pouring millions of dollars into dealing with the migrant crisis, but where's the money being spent?
As the city scrambles to provide basic necessities, food, shelter, healthcare, the strain on resources is palpable. Schools, hospitals, and public services are feeling the weight of the crisis. As Chicago confronts this new challenge, the city's response will not only test its resources, but its heart. In the midst of this, debates rage on. How can the city sustain this influx? What responsibilities do federal and state governments have to support Chicago?
These South and West Side homeowners are angry. They believe the city has overextended itself and should be putting the tens of millions of dollars earmarked for migrants into Chicago's most vulnerable neighborhoods.
But the South Side has been under-resourced, underfunded for years, for decades. We have schools that need to be reopened.
As we peel back the layers of this complex issue, one thing becomes clear. The migrant crisis in Chicago is a reflection of a larger global challenge, begging questions about the Biden administration and government as a whole. Take a listen to Governor Abbott, who has experienced the border crisis up close in Texas.
Joe Biden is responsible for the largest amount of illegal immigration in the history of the United States.
There's only one reason why this is happening, and that's because Joe Biden has eliminated all of the 4 policies that Donald Trump put in place that led to the lowest illegal border crossings in 40 years.
Stay with me as we delve deeper into this unfolding story, exploring not just the scale of the crisis, but the government's response and the citizens' stories at its heart. City response. How exactly are the authorities in Chicago managing this complex situation? Let's break it down. First off, the city's government has been quick to mobilize. Recognizing the urgency, millions of dollars have been allocated to emergency housing, food services, and healthcare for new arrivals. It's a monumental task, akin to building a small city within the city, virtually overnight.
You know, this is a global crisis. Policies that are impacting population shifts around the globe is affecting us all. These are asylum seekers. These are not illegal people. The moment they step on American soil, they are now officially protected by international law.
This financial commitment is just the tip of the iceberg. At the helm, Mayor Brandon Johnson faces the daunting task of navigating these turbulent waters.
We're moving with expediency because the weather is going to be shifting very soon. And so before inclement weather sets in, we fully expect to have these base camps established.
Defending his administration's response amidst a sea of challenges and criticisms. The migrant surge has stretched Chicago's resources thin, pushing its infrastructure to the limit. With shelters brimming beyond capacity, the city's response has been both innovative and controversial.
In other news tonight, the city is moving forward to build a tent city despite a tense community meeting in Brighton Park last night.
The introduction of tent cities, a bold move aimed at providing immediate relief. Critics abound, questioning the sustainability and humanity of such measures. Yet, in the face of adversity, Mayor Johnson stands firm, articulating a vision of compassion and resilience. The strategy is multifaceted, from negotiating with state and federal authorities for additional support to mobilizing a citywide network of volunteers and NGOs. Chicago's response is a testament to its character, a city renowned not just for its architectural marvels, but for its indomitable spirit. But as winter's chill looms on the horizon, the city races against time. The tent cities, a temporary solution at best, underscore the pressing need for long-term strategies. Housing, employment, healthcare, and integration services are all on the agenda as Mayor Johnson and his team work tirelessly to turn the tide.
Black communities have been disinvested in. Keep in mind that the migrant crisis, this international global crisis, really requires a federal resource response.
What if the federal government doesn't help you?
Well, clearly they haven't thus far.
But is that sustainable?
No, it's not sustainable. The Congress does have to act.
The mayor's one-on-one interviews reveal more than just the policies and plans in play. They offer a glimpse into the ethos of a city that refuses to turn its back on those in need. Yet for all the optimism, the road ahead is fraught with uncertainty. Can Chicago transform this crisis into an opportunity? Will the tent cities serve as a bridge to a more sustainable future? Or will they become a symbol of a crisis uncontained?
After 10 months at the helm of City Hall, Mayor Brandon Johnson is defending his record and a full-page ad in the Sunday paper combating criticism of his progressive agenda.
As Mayor Johnson defends his administration's handling of the crisis, the city watches and waits. This is a story of resilience in the face of adversity, of a city rallying together to support its newest members. It's a narrative that tests the limits of policy, compassion, and community spirit. Stay tuned as we continue to explore Chicago's response to its migrant crisis, a saga of hope, hardship, and humanity playing out on the urban stage. This is not just the story of a city's struggle. It's a reflection of a society grappling with the complexities of migration in the modern world. Personal stories. In the midst of numbers and policy discussions, the heart of the migrant crisis in Chicago beats with personal stories, tales of hope, despair, and the complex tapestry of human experience. Let's delve into the lives touched by this unfolding situation, bringing to light the personal narratives that remind us of the individual impact behind the headlines.
Migrant is dead after a outside the Gage Park facility. Alderman Ray Lopez confirmed the 28-year-old man died from his injuries. Police say he was on the sidewalk when an unknown car pulled up and someone inside that car at the man, hitting him in the head.
In the bustling streets of Chicago, a city that has become a beacon of hope for many, the story of a 28-year-old migrant unfolds, a journey marked by both courage and tragedy. Fleeing and seeking a safer life, he found solace in the arms of the Windy City. But his dream was cut short, a life lost to the very tried to escape. This young man's story is a sobering reminder of the challenges that migrants face. Even upon reaching supposed safe havens, his aspirations, his hopes for a new beginning were tragically ended by a bullet, a stark testament to the complex tapestry of safety, opportunity, and risk that defines the migrant experience in urban landscapes. His narrative forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about integration, safety, and how we protect the most vulnerable among us. It's a call to action, a plea for a society that not only opens its doors, but also safeguards those who step through them.
Just listen to the words.
All this asylum-seeking lie, what's happening is they're emptying out the dregs of their jails into the United States, into our communities. They're junking up our country.
Equally passionate is the story of a local man, overwhelmed by the rapid changes in his community. His anger and frustration are palpable as he demands attention and action from city leaders. This crisis, through his eyes, is not just a matter of policy, but of personal daily life. His sense of community, his sense of security, and his sense of belonging are all under siege. His story is a vivid illustration of the broader social and emotional repercussions of the migrant influx on Chicago's residents, showcasing the tension between compassion for the migrants' plight and the capacity of local communities to absorb and support them.
There's a video of this sister from Chicago, the South Side to be exact. She is mad as all outdoors about what has been going on with Black residents and the migrants and what Mayor Brandon Johnson is allowing to go on.
On the flip side of the coin, we meet a Chicagoan, a long-term resident whose frustration echoes through the city streets. She's witnessed firsthand the growing pains of her city as it grapples with the migrant influx. Her daily life has changed, her neighborhood transformed, and her patience worn thin. Her voice is raw, unfiltered, and speaks to the heart of the city's struggle. Her story isn't just about frustration, it's a reflection of the broader societal impact, the tension between compassion and capacity, between welcoming newcomers and maintaining community stability. This narrative sheds light on the critical need for balance, for policies and solutions that not only address the needs of migrants, but also consider the well-being of the city's long-term residents. It's a dialogue about sustainability, about finding a path forward that honors the dignity of all involved. Challenges and controversies.
Critics accuse the city of prioritizing migrants over citizens.
Welcome back. This morning, hundreds of migrants are still without homes.
In a city that prides itself on tackling problems head-on, the migrant crisis has thrown a curveball that Chicago is still trying to catch. While efforts to accommodate and integrate migrants are in full swing, the path is fraught with challenges and controversies that test the city's resolve. One of the most pressing issues? Housing. With thousands of migrants seeking refuge, Chicago's housing market, already tight, is stretched to its limits. The city's scramble to find temporary accommodations has led to innovative solutions like converting public buildings into shelters. But it's a band-aid on a bullet wound, and the search for long-term housing solutions continues to be a contentious debate among policymakers, activists, and residents.
I'm scared that if we go away for the weekend, that somebody's going to break into my house and steal the things that I've worked so very hard for in my life.
Then there's the question of resources. Every dollar spent on the crisis is a dollar not spent elsewhere. Public schools, healthcare facilities, and social services are feeling the strain, sparking a heated debate about priorities. Critics argue that the city's focus on migrants diverts attention and resources from long-standing urban issues like crime, education, and poverty among Chicago's own residents. The controversy doesn't stop at resource allocation. The very nature of Chicago's open arms policy has ignited a political firestorm. Supporters hail it as a moral imperative, a testament to the city's rich history as a melting pot. Opponents, however, see it as an unsustainable stance that could encourage further influxes without adequate support from state or federal governments. Integration efforts, too, face their own set of challenges. Bridging cultural divides and overcoming language barriers are monumental tasks, compounded by the need for job training and employment opportunities that align with migrants' skills and experiences. The fear of cultural dilution versus the celebration of diversity has sparked conversations in coffee shops, town halls, and on social media platforms across the city.
The city of Chicago has closed 4 temporary migrant shelters, saying the individuals have been moved to other shelters.
Amidst these challenges, the city's leadership finds itself walking a tightrope. Balancing compassion with pragmatism, the needs of migrants with those of long-term residents, and the city's welcoming ethos with the realities of finite resources has proven to be a Herculean task. Yet, it's within this whirlwind of challenges and controversies that Chicago's spirit shines brightest. Dialogues are opening, solutions are being sought, and the city's identity as a place of refuge is being both questioned and reaffirmed.
More equipment, including cots, is being dropped off at this Loop migrant shelter. When the shuttered Standard Club opened as a shelter last spring, it housed over 760 new arrivals. Today, there are over 1,200.
As Chicago navigates this complex landscape, the eyes of the nation, and indeed the world, are watching, waiting to see how the Windy City will write the next chapter in its storied history of resilience and inclusion. Looking forward. As Chicago stands at the crossroads of crisis and opportunity, the path forward is illuminated by both challenges and hopes. The city, known for its indomitable spirit, is now tasked with envisioning a future that not only addresses the immediate needs of its migrant population, but also integrates these new arrivals into the fabric of urban life. Looking forward, the city's strategy hinges on sustainable integration. This means not just providing temporary shelter and basic needs, but also focusing on long-term employment opportunities, education, and community integration. The goal? To transform this crisis into an opportunity for both migrants and the city itself. Education plays a pivotal role in this vision. Chicago's public schools are ramping up bilingual education and cultural integration programs, preparing both migrant children and their local counterparts for a world that's increasingly diverse and interconnected. The investment in education today is seen as a down payment on the city's future economic and social well-being. Employment is another critical piece of the puzzle. The city is partnering with local businesses and industries to create job training programs tailored to the skills and needs of the migrant population. By aligning these initiatives with the city's broader economic development strategies.
Over the past year and a half, more than 35,000 new arrivals have been welcomed here in Chicago from the southern border.
Chicago aims to not only provide livelihoods for new arrivals, but also fuel its own growth and innovation. Healthcare, too, is undergoing a transformation. With an influx of people comes an increased demand for medical services, prompting the city to innovate in providing accessible healthcare to all residents, regardless of status. Mobile health clinics, telemedicine, and community health programs are part of a broader strategy to ensure that everyone in Chicago has the opportunity to live a healthy life. But perhaps the most significant aspect of looking forward is the cultural shift. Chicago is embracing its new demographic landscape, seeing it as an enrichment of its already diverse cultural tapestry. Festivals, community dialogues, and educational programs are fostering exchanges between long-standing residents and new arrivals, building bridges where there were once divides. Yet challenges remain.
Another migrant shelter in Chicago closes its doors.
The road ahead requires not just city leadership, but also the active participation of every Chicagoan. It calls for a reimagining of what it means to be a community, a reevaluation of resources, and a reaffirmation of the city's commitment to being a place of refuge and opportunity. As we look to the future, one thing is clear. The story of Chicago and its migrants is still being written. With each step forward, the city reaffirms its reputation as a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of community, and a reminder that in the face of adversity, there lies the opportunity for growth, understanding, and unity. Closing. As our journey through the heart of Chicago's response to its migrant crisis draws to a close, we're left to reflect on the resilience, compassion, and challenges that define this moment in the city's history. A story that began with numbers and statistics has unfolded into a narrative of human struggle, community strength, and the unending quest for a better life. Chicago, with its iconic skyline and bustling streets, has once again proven itself to be a city of broad shoulders, bearing the weight of new responsibilities and opportunities with a blend of pragmatism and heart. From the halls of city government to the smallest community centers, the response to the migrant crisis has been nothing short of a testament to what can be achieved when a city comes together. But the story doesn't end here. The chapters yet to be written will be shaped by the actions we take today and tomorrow. As Chicago navigates the complexities of integration, resource allocation, and cultural adaptation, the rest of us are reminded of the ongoing global conversation about migration, humanity, and the essence of community. This crisis, like the city itself, is a mosaic. Each piece, whether it's a policy decision, a volunteer's time, or a migrant's story, contributes to the larger picture of what it means to be part of a community in the 21st century. It's a reminder that behind the headlines are individuals and families, each with their own dreams, fears, and aspirations. As we conclude, let's not forget that the spirit of Chicago is mirrored in cities and towns around the world, each facing their own challenges and finding unique ways to respond. The Windy City story is a chapter in a much larger book about our shared human experience, highlighting the importance of empathy, innovation, and the unyielding belief in a better tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Chicago's migrant crisis. The conversation doesn't end here, it's just beginning. As we look forward, let's carry with us the lessons learned and the stories heard, using them as a beacon to guide our way through the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.